Aphrodite Jones, you were also there today. Were you as shocked as everybody else?
My jaw dropped, Piers, and something else. Everybody was not only stunned. Yes, Casey was grabbing onto her attorney's hand. She was holding on for dear life, but she looked surprised, frankly, because prior to the verdict, she came in all puffy-faced. She clearly had been briefed. She had been prepared for a guilty verdict, and she had been crying, and that was clear. She was seemingly surprised herself. And as the verdicts continue to come in, not guilty on any count to do with murdering her child, suddenly you saw a new Casey, somebody who was at the end of it started to smile. And, you know, she still has a dead baby there, and we have a lot of questions. There's still a lot of explaining to do. And to say that they found her innocent, Piers, I beg to differ. They found her not guilty. That doesn't mean they thought she was innocent. They just felt that the state did not have enough evidence to prove beyond their reasonable doubt that she did it.
Alan Dershowitz, let me bring you in here. I mean, from a legal point of view, were you surprised at the verdict?
You're always surprised at verdicts in cases like this. There are hundreds of people in prison, some on death row today, based on less evidence than this. This was a sufficient case to go to the jury and a sufficient case for a jury to have gone either way. It all depends on whether you trust the jury system. We have to remember that jury trials in homicide cases are not whodunits. It's not about justice for Kaylee. The prosecutor said, quote, this case is about seeking justice for Kaylee. No, it's not. It's not even about finding the truth. It's about figuring out whether or not the admissible evidence proves the charges in this case beyond a reasonable doubt. The jury very reasonably had a doubt. They didn't know when she died. They didn't know the cause of death. The government's theory was very speculative. The defense theory was even more speculative. By the way, I don't think the defense attorney did such a great job here, getting up in front of the jury and saying he was going to prove that she was abused. Why would you argue that the defendant was abused if she didn't do it? The abuse excuse is generally something that you introduce to mitigate guilt. So he got better as it went along. But the prosecution overcharged the case. It never should have been a capital case. It never should have been a first-degree murder case. They overtried the case. They introduced absurd evidence from an expert that he could smell death. By the way, this case, even had there been a conviction, probably would have been reversed on appeal based on the junk science. So this is really a case, if you trust the jury system, if you believe that better 10 guilty go free than one innocent be wrongly confined, if you really believe in proof beyond a reasonable doubt, this is the right verdict. If you think the object of a criminal trial is whodunit, to do justice for the victim, then this produced the wrong result.
Kathy Wright, junk science, would you go along with that?
Well, I think it's fringe science. I think it's science that hasn't really been validated or tested adequately enough to prove that it's reliable enough to present in court.
That's
some of it. Yeah. And I do disagree strongly with the rebuttal statement of the forensic anthropologist that you don't open a skull at autopsy. I always open a skull. If you want to see what's inside there, you're not going to try to peek